Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me back here on the Redmen TV. I go by Errol Smith. As you know, I will be your host for your Fan Interactive as Liverpool have just been down to the London Stadium there and drew 2-2 with West Ham. Let's just jump straight into it, guys. I can tell the feeling amongst the fan base online at the moment is probably going to be at an all-time low, understandably. It feels as though Liverpool's season has now just we're whimpering over the line. We don't really seem to have enough. People can say the legs have run out. It's our heads have fell off. We've bottled it. All those kind of terms and cliches can be thrown at this Liverpool team at this moment in time, and understandable. But let's just jump straight into it. Talking Ball says, Same old. That 4-3 defeat against United this season started the season's downfall. Diaz had to have been subbed off because of fatigue, as he was our most promising player. I agree with you there, to be honest with you. I think Luis Diaz was one of our most promising players today. I think there was a couple of chats in the watch along saying that he would have been potentially our man of the match. I thought that he was good throughout a large portions of the game, especially in terms of taking that fight to West Ham, trying to be a bit of a catalyst, trying to get us on the front foot, trying to make things happen. He does that often, and it's never through the lack of trying. I think it is more down to maybe quality and composure in that final third that we seem to just lack at times, and it's not just him that's guilty of it, but he was probably our most dynamic player today for sure. Jones says, I'm not writing Salah off, but I think we can cash in to help our future. We're sad to see him fighting with Klopp. The truth is we have fizzled out in the most important time of the season, but you never walk alone, Reds. And yeah, do you know what? I think that's a really important thing, because I remember when, Jurgen Klopp inherited the side that wasn't capable of challenging, and he had to bring in additions to take us to that level. And one of the big decisions that was made was obviously selling Coutinho at the time, and it was a time when we were selling Coutinho when he was probably in the form of his life for Liverpool Football Club. But in terms of the betterments of the club, what we was able to do with that money and funds was able to buy in, the likes of Alisson. Obviously Firmino already came in, but we was able to get Alisson, Van Dijk. That really made us title challengers and fleshed out that team to take us to that level. And if it is Slot that comes in the summer, he will definitely want to do things his way and maybe make his mark, and not necessarily as a conflict of personalities or egos or anything like that, but it might do him some good to let someone of Salah's level go, to try and bring in his next star boy, someone that he can bring up to that level that will run through brick walls for him. And as I say, the money that we would be able to rake in for the sale of a Mohamed Salah, it would be significant. So we should be able to go into the transfer market and boldly spend money on the areas that need to be addressed this summer. Jolia family says, fair result once again, couldn't finish, gave away goals through unforced errors, still walking through the storm, our heads held high. Yeah, and again, I mean, I'm happy for anyone who wants to find and take positives throughout the course of Liverpool seasons, but it is very difficult at this moment in time to find real tangible positives for how the last month and a half of the performances have gone for Liverpool. I think, I've been saying for a long time, results are all that matters, but the performances really give you the credit to be able to go and get those type of results and those level of results, and performances ultimately have cost us, because in the areas of the pitch in both ends of the field, defensively and in the final third, we've just not been good enough. We've been well below our levels. Asham says, do you think there's a little bit of the new guard Diaz outshining the old and outgunning the old guard Salah? Maybe not necessarily outgunning, because gunning to me sounds like, they're a killer in front of goal and they're putting up those numbers, and I'm not saying he's not performing, but in terms of output, he's still not that guy for me personally. Other people will still speak very highly of him. I don't think he's ever really going to give us that GA, the statisticians always love to talk about. I don't think he's ever really going to give us that top level GA. He doesn't strike me as that type of player. I think one thing that I am really looking forward to seeing from Diaz is how he works within another system, because one of the things that I've noted was when he first joined us in that January, it almost appeared that in those 3 to 6 months we couldn't really drill in any of the tactics of how we played as a squad. It was like, let's just go and play you on vibes. Let's just go play with your energy, your raw athleticism, your ability to carry the ball. We'll run with all that, and we'll run with it, and we'll see how far that gets us. And it was good. And then obviously over that summer, we've worked on him, and ever since, it's been about working him, getting him into the system, getting him to play as a Klopp player, play as a part of the system. And I think that's probably taken a little bit away from his raw natural ability. And as a result of that, we've seen him struggle in terms of output this season particularly. So it will be interesting to see next season what a new manager coaches him to do, what a new manager wants the instructions for Luis Diaz to be, and how he wants him to perform in that final third. Those tweaks for me are going to be the real insight to the level that this player is capable of, obviously, or hopefully being able to go on to achieve. If we go over to Twitter, this one's an interesting one. I don't think we can get it over. I don't know if we've got the overlay for the actual picture, but it does just say here, how is that not a red card? And we can see there in the bottom corner. Yeah, because I mentioned it in the watch along. It looked as if that was very similar to the Curtis Jones one at Spurs for me. It looked nailed on that. It was a similar type of 50-50. He mistimes the tackle. He gets so much of the man's leg and ankle that it's almost dangerous and reckless play. But VAR doesn't want to do nothing, doesn't want to look at it, not interested apparently. So that one was a little bit of a shock for me, if I'm being completely honest with you. Yeah. Ted says, what's the comments here? He says, remember when we had 6 cup finals and we just needed to win them all? Absolutely. Unfortunately, that has not been the case in Liverpool. Still got 3 massive games, but they don't feel like cup finals anymore, I'll be really honest with you. Looks at home. He said he's disappointed for Klopp. The players have let him down massively these last 8 games. Just need to enjoy these last 3 games for what they are now, as they will be Klopp's last. Yeah, I completely agree. And that was the mentality I came in with today when I come into the studio. It was more, obviously I wanted us to win. A win would have been great. Just keep the pressure, keep the other 2 teams honest. If they were going to push them to the last day, so they have to be in it for the last day as well, I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to enjoy myself and have a vibe with the chat, have a vibe with Chris, the lads in the studio, and just make good content for people watching at home, because it hasn't been easy watching Liverpool in the last couple of weeks, and it is difficult to find the positives and stay positive and give people content where they think, oh, you know, we're not just bashing them for bashing them's sake. But when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to you needing your big players to step up and stand up, unfortunately this season they have let us down in the moments that matter most, and it's a hard one to take. But this Liverpool team are going to have to dust themselves off, because, as I say, top 4 is still not secured. We've still got 3 massive games. Anything can still happen, but I do believe our chances for winning the league are pretty much more or less done and dusted. Brett Kraut says, what does he say? Yeah, Klopp's departure is getting more grim as the days go on. Yeah, and I was joking before off air with the lads in the studio, and I turned around and said, I'm on to Klopp. He's dropping his standards now, so the next manager looks good when he comes in. I see what he's doing, a little bit of 4D chess there, but this isn't the time to do it. And you know, as I say, I am trying to find a silver lining out of absolutely fuck all, to be honest with you, because I don't think Klopp would have wanted to drop the standards at this stage in the season. I don't think that was part of any of his plans or his blueprint. So it is very disappointing for him more than anybody else. You know, he will be the one, because I think it's almost like the Jarrod thing. You know, when Jarrod obviously never won a Premier League and then got so agonisingly close in 13-14, and he's seen it, and it's something that, like, as much as all of the highlights that he had in his Liverpool career, he'll always look back at that season with some level of regret. And I think Klopp will probably feel the same in a couple of years' time. No matter how fondly he talks of Liverpool, the fans, the fan base, and his career here, there'll probably be bits about this last season that he wish he could probably go back and do over if he was afforded the opportunity. Johnny says we are 1 point closer to getting 3rd place. The More Experiment says, story of the season, soft goals given away, missing chances, hitting the woodwork, bizarre refereeing, also today taking off Trent and Diaz was a strange one when you're suddenly needing a goal. Couldn't agree more. Grant Walton says there is no fight in any of our players, and that is the bottom line. Mark Linley says, a bit better, but we can't consistently win games when we give up easy chances while we're struggling to create any really good ones. I thought we did create a couple of good chances. First half, there was a few. In the second half, particularly, I think at 2-1, there was opportunities for Liverpool to kill off the game. And had we have done that, I don't think West Ham would have fought on to get 2 goals. They might have still nicked the goal, but I thought 3-1 would have seen us over the line today. And we, in those big moments, that's when you need to really come through and come clutching. Unfortunately, Liverpool just, again, more often than not this season has just failed to deliver that. And it's not really been more often than not in the season, but it feels like that toward the last 8 or so games when it's really mattered, and the wealth of opportunities that we've created, we've shit the bed. It's as simple as that. Iman says, wasted opportunities, but a little bit better than our last game. At least we found the net today. Some better defending and taking our chances as we did with our 2 goals is all we need. No, we needed more. We really did need that little bit more. If we would have been a little bit more watertight. And again, I think the first goal could be avoided because it's a quick corner, it catches us cold, and then the second goal, about 90 seconds before the goal goes in, Alisson Becker comes to claim a cross and he gets it all wrong, and it's not like him, and that nervous energy just instantly transmitted to the back line and the midfielders, and we never really seem to regain our composure. Building up into that point, the control in the game that we seemed to have was nigh on perfect. It was exactly what we wanted. We didn't really need to push for that third goal. We didn't need to force it, so to speak. If the opportunity presented itself, we needed to be clinical, make no mistake about it. We failed to do that, but in those moments, as soon as that error was made, nobody really wanted to re-establish the authority on that game and regain that control that allowed us to then get back out and just start playing our football. Before you know it, West Ham get the tails up. They start to feel as though something can happen and start applying a little bit of pressure to Liverpool. And then before you know it, Antonio pops up and scores the second goal. So that is really kind of our undoing, ultimately. Got a super chat here from... Here's it from Bray. Klopp will always be the boss. We got Champions League, gutted like everyone today, gutted, but we did it. But did we expect to win a lot with this team? We will go again. Okay, I hear that. Let's clear that one off. Brit Sniper, yeah, this is an interesting one. Again, maybe it might be a little bit of a talking point for everyone on the instant match reaction. Make sure you do stick around if you are a Redmen Plus member. Make sure you stick around. We've got the instant match reaction. We've got some player ratings there for you, and you do know that there will be the final word on Monday as well for you to catch up on. But I think that probably will be a little bit of a talking point there. As he says, the worrying to see the spat between Salah and Jurgen. Wonder what it's all about. I think Salah's got to look at himself and take a hard look in his mirror, because, you know, we mentioned it very briefly on the watch one before about how the players seem to not necessarily play better without Salah. I think we played more of a team, but as a team we was working harder for each other to keep ourselves in amongst it all at that time when Salah was missing through AFCON and then injury. And for, you know, we was in there, and that was because of the graft, the hard work and the fight at that particular point in time. And then the players then not really hand over the reins to Salah, but they expect Salah to then come back and pick up that form and pick up the mantle and take the charge to whatever team we're up against. You be that talisman for us and really drive us forwards towards a league, or, you know, the Europa League or the FA Cup, whatever it is that we're in. You can be that driving force for us. And I think Salah's form has really tailed off to an extent that, like, it's not just his output that's affected, because he's still chipped in with goals, but it's been his all-round play, it's been his body language, it's been his hunger, and he's ducking out of 50-50s and things like that. And it's the stuff that fans don't really want to see in a player, no matter how good the player's been for us before. You know, it's what have you done for us lately settings. And I think that's probably borne a little bit of frustration out to Jurgen Klopp, because Jurgen Klopp has put a lot of loyalty and faith in Mo Salah. And I think, you know, a lot of people will always say that Jurgen is guilty of being too loyal at times, but Jurgen Klopp has been absolutely vindicated to drop Salah for his form lately, because it's simply not been good enough. It's not been to Mohammed standards, high level that he set for us in the past. And You know, when he then coming on, obviously they are just after conceding, he's probably frustrated that he's not been put on 5-10 minutes earlier after we took the lead. Maybe that was the time to give fresh legs and go again and try and get a third with some fresh faces on the pitch. And it is very difficult to suggest what happened. Obviously, lip reading and trying to read between the lines of people while we're sat in the studio and we're not at the ground. But, you know, that's two very, 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 you know, professionals at that top of the game clashing because of tensions, passions, disappointments, and frustrations, ultimately all bubbling to the surface. And it's there on 4K for millions of people around the world to see, and it doesn't make for good viewing, but it does still show that both parties still do care, and they've still got the bit between the teeth in one way or another. So thank you very much for that comment, and I'll be interested to see what your thoughts and comments are about that. Leave them downstairs. Let us know in the comments what you think's going on there between the gaffer and the Egyptian king. Algebra says, stop talking red cards, VAR, fuck it, we didn't win, end of. Fair. No, we didn't. We can't grumble too much. Dino says, sad about the result. Even sadder that Mo's reaction to the boss. Sadly, it will be in the media and Twitter talk. Yeah, that's social media though, innit? Like, if you don't like it, just turn it off, because that will happen and that will be regurgitated now for probably for the rest of the weekend. It will be talking points probably on Monday Night Football and all the rest of it. Alex Campanelli says, at this point we should run out the kids. There are a few players who are just not showing the right level right now, and as much as I would love to agree with that sentiment, I do still believe that we've still got a secure top four. The fact that we're leaving it to the last 3 games before that is going to be a guarantee as well probably doesn't afford the kids the luxury of getting many more minutes this season. But that's not to say that they haven't put in an amazing level of performance up until this point and what they've went on to do, and you know, a couple of breakthrough seasons for a couple of individuals. So all that being said, I think they will have to look towards the pre-season and getting themselves in the mode to go and show this new manager what they're all capable of doing. Sarah Bockett's asking what are our thoughts about the touchline with Salah. I've just kind of given my thoughts. Obviously, let the comments have that. You guys go back and forth in the comments if you want, give us some of your insight. But I don't need to go back over that one, I don't think. We are going to go on and do some player rankings in a minute, guys, as well. I'll be headed over to the board shortly to give us your player rankings. So do stick around, get involved in the chat. I'm going to need a little bit of help. Don't be too brutal. You know, it hasn't been a loss today. All things considered, I think we already, most of us probably expected the title to have been out of our reach at this stage now. So let's just take it in isolation and just call it for what the game was, and let's remove the context of a title race, and let's just kind of rank them based on how they performed today. That's how I'm going to kind of look at it. So if you can kind of go in with that mindset as well, we'll all be on the same page, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more of a unity in and amongst the rankings. Alex comes back with a really good comment, actually. It's clear as day to see that their confidence is shattered. I only think the way we shake this up is to introduce new faces on the pitch better than running the same players out. Interesting, because we did that. You know, the confidence seemed to have gone from the midfield last season, and we made a very, very quick decision to just, sell Fabinho for the 40-odd million, sell, Henderson for however many million. Milner was going to go, Diox went, Keita. There was so many players that left that midfield engine room last season, and we got new faces. We blooded in new bodies this year, and we in part throughout the season, I think they've had purple patches. I just don't think they've cohesively all gelled to the point where that purple patch is a team, and it was asking a lot to really go all full tilt with a lot of lads that have probably never done that in their footballing careers. McAllister's never done it before, Szoboszlai will have never done it before, Endo will have never done it before. But that's where I expect the leadership of, the senior players, especially within our camp, that have been there, done it, to have really stepped up. And I think, when it's mattered most, I think that's where they'll probably look at themselves and say, yeah, we've let ourselves down there, because we was in a very commanding and controlling position. And if we would have made better decisions, if we would have shown that little bit more leadership and aggression at times, had we have had that desire and fight, we could have dragged, I always say about Suarez from 13-14 for so long in that season. He dragged other players up to his level because he was just determined, win by hook or crook. And I think a couple of our lads are guilty of that. There's levels that they have that, they put them best in class on their day in any, in their position and out of any of the teams in the league. But we haven't been able to drag other people up to, that adequate level to really take the fight. It was going to go to the last day as it looks now. It's probably going to go to the last day of the season. If we'd have knew that at the start of the season, we'd have probably never given ourselves the chance. The fact that we was in it for so long, the fact that these players now, the senior players, the experienced ones, haven't had that ability to drag that out in other individuals. It's something that now hopefully that pain is going to birth and spark something for them next season where they feel like, I don't want to go through that again. That was a really tough one to take. Next season, it's got to be in our hands to make sure that it's a better outcome. And I think it'll be a long summer for a lot of these players. There'll be international competitions, of course, but I think when it comes back to pre-season and coming back, they will have a good long look at each other and talking to themselves amongst it and consider what they need to do and what they need to do differently going into the final stretch. And hopefully that pain can be some sort of a motivator. Again, that's me trying to spin a positive, and I'm sorry if nobody's in that mood right now, but we've got to find positives going into this into the summer, because Liverpool have got a big job on their hand replacing Jurgen Klopp. No matter who the manager was going to be, was never going to be an easy task. So Liverpool have got to get it right going forward. We've got to make some big decisions, big calls, and we need our big players to stand up and take charge of the next Premier League. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been a fan interactive. There's probably been some chats going over on Discord as well. Ray Cairns from Facebook says that was a painful watch. It really was. People are asking, why did we take Diaz off? So there's a couple there. People saying we missed Jota again. I'm sorry I didn't get to these sooner. Sharon Evans from Facebook as well. Her vibes and her thoughts. I love Salah, but he was a disgrace on the touchline today. Who else? Tim, again, the last quarter of this season has proven too much for this squad, and we'll have to use it as a stepping stone to be better for the better times. We have some good players, but we need to find a proper goal scorer. And I think, that is a good way to sum everything up for us, really, because when it mattered most, when the pressure was on, back end of the season, it's just been a bridge too far for Liverpool, and that is where we went to the well one time too many. I think I've seen someone mention before, we went behind in the Premier League alone 24 times this season. That is not the sign of champions, ladies and gentlemen. So if there was ever the hallmarks there, or say the writing was on the wall, that in itself is a bit of a damning indication that it was probably never going to be Liverpool's season. We can all hope, we can all pray for some big dramatic last couple of games of this season. But if you've watched this City side in the last 5 to 6 to 7 years, if you've watched this Arsenal side in the last 18 months, you probably know, it's done out here. But thank you very much for joining me. I've been Errol Smith. My handle will probably scroll across the screen any second now. Big up Amber on the buttons in the back as well. Thank you very much for sticking around. Solitaire side up on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go follow. And I will be going over to the board in a second to do your player rankings. Make sure you stick around. Catch up on the Redmen Plus content for the instant match reaction and player ratings. And I will see you all again soon.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com.